That's the service industry we live in.
Mm-hmm.
We should probably get started. Okay. Yeah. All right, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Melissa Saville and Brandon Holmes, and you guys, I think you have a new name since the last time that maybe you kind of reconfigure because it's. Tell me what.
The business name is Renew Refinishing and Restoration.
Okay, because it was the old name was
Renew by Natesco.
Natesco. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I like the new name.
It's actually Renew Restoration and Refinishing. I always get them backwards. Did I just get them backwards twice?
I think you may have gotten them backwards.
Backwards.
Which does that mean they're once again facing front?
Yeah.
Well, our name is Renew, and we
I'm gonna look
refinish
it
and
up.
we restore.
Yeah. And I like it. It's very self-explanatory. And
Renew, refinishing, and restoration.
Yeah.
Now that we have established we don't even know our own name.
That's okay. You guys, well, that's good because you're not sitting around worrying about your name. You're actually getting down to doing some work, which you guys are obviously doing. You have a lot of really cool projects going on in here, and you guys have definitely been busy.
We certainly have. Yeah, I think last time we talked was just about this time last year.
Yeah,
within a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And of course, last time it was like snowing out. We were
Right,
talking about,
yeah.
and now we've gone from having to open our garage bay door here at the shop to let warm air in because there's no heat. Now
Right.
we have to close it to keep the warm air out and keep the cool air in.
Yeah, it's actually pretty comfortable in here today.
It's not too bad.
Yeah, I've
not
been in
bad.
here days when it was very, very warm and very, very cold. So this is good. We're here in short sleeve t-shirts and
This is the first T-shirt day in here.
It is.
yeah. I imagine a building like this cools off and heats up very slowly.
Yes.
It's out of pace with the rest of the world.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So you guys are getting married.
We are.
Yeah.
We are.
Well, now remind me the date again. I know I have it. I've saved the date because I'm going.
September 9th,
September 9th. Yes.
9/9/18.
Nice. How exciting. And you guys are actually using the fact that you're getting married as a good reason, excuse, however you want to put it, to kind of come up with some unique things for a new venture that you're doing, right?
We are.
Yeah, we are. We sort of just to make the table to record here, cleaned off some sawdust from a bar that I've been building that may be used at the wedding, may be sold before then, and design that we're playing around with.
And so you guys are going to build a lot of the fixtures and things for your wedding?
Yes.
We will, because we are, in true fashion, apparently the only place we do anything. We're getting married in what is essentially an abandoned warehouse.
Yeah.
It was an old electric company. They worked on electric motors. It's near Pittsburgh Airport in Oakdale, and the owners have just purchased it. They closed in March.
In March, about a month ago.
Oh, okay.
We will be the first event other than a vintage market that they host. They're actually turning it into an event venue where we'll be the first wedding or event of any kind other than the vintage market, and helping them set up, basically helping them market the space as showing it
Yeah.
set up for.
And I think more and more people are looking for unique spaces like that.
I think that's definitely
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Definitely true.
And if I'm not mistaken, part of the plan is you're going to kind of create these things for your wedding, but then you're also going to have them available to rent. Is that kind of still the game plan?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to be building bars and tables and benches and those sorts of things
Yeah.
because that's just our wheelhouse of what we do anyway. And
Yeah.
we've got to build them for the wedding. There's nowhere to rent them right now, which is one of the reasons that we thought, like, well, if there's nowhere to rent these, we're going to have to build them if we want them.
Yeah.
Well, if we build them, other people might want them, so
Yeah.
they'll be available for rent.
See, I love the idea of being able to dual purpose and to kind of find 4 or 5 different ways to take advantage of a situation. And you could say, well, we can't find them anywhere, and well, if we build them, then they're just going to sit there. But you realize that actually that came out as a plus, that you couldn't find them because you kind of fell backwards into a niche in the market that exists, that you're kind of in a good situation to fill it.
Yeah, it's sort of the way we do everything.
Intentionally or not, it's absolutely the way we do.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter if it's
Everything.
intentional or not, as long as you get there.
we typically landed right side up.
Right?
Sometimes through no fault of our own. But.
Well, I do think that a lot of time it's just being able to spot that opening where you can kind of that'll take you into a new room where you can really do well, and maybe it's that you only went through that opening because all the other ones were closed, and it kind of being super metaphorical there, but the idea that a lot of times when something comes up and you go, this is a complete disaster, or this isn't what we had planned, it kind of pushes you in an area where you kind of are off to a new level. And I think the smart people like you guys are able to see these situations and know how to take the most of them.
In this case, it was because there was a nothing. There wasn't even a door. There was, you're looking for things, and there's not really. I don't. As far as event rental, there's really nothing to speak of unless you go to Morgantown, or Pittsburgh. So,
and even in those markets, the kind of stuff that we're
looking for isn't necessarily there.
Available.
Yeah. So there's one piece that you guys have that I'm actually looking at now that it's nice. It's kind of got that rustic, natural look that I think a lot of people are looking for. Just some of the conversations I had in podcasts, people are looking to get back to, less of the just crumb and polish everything, and the idea of elegant and simple and kind of even raw to a certain extent. I think you're coming along at a right time when people have an appreciation for that.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a big part of our business in general. Is people want something with a story. They want something that looks authentic and real, and that you can. It's this. It really looks like someone's hands have been on it. And we've got so much that clearly looks like no one's hands have been on it.
And it doesn't look like something that was bought off the shelf from a big supply company or from Target.
People want things that are a little bit different and sort of want their own spin on things. And in some cases, really what we're finding at this point, a lot of what we have come in is people have things that are important to them. Right.
Sentimental value attached.
Yes. Yeah. I think one of the best, and I told her I'm going to quote her forever, one of our customers, who's also a friend of mine, she had this big, heavy furniture that was her grandmother's, and it was this big, heavy, dark wood, probably 1960s vintage furniture. And it sucked all of the light out of the room. It was almost black.
Oh, wow.
Big, heavy, ornate carved wood, and it just didn't go with their home. It didn't go with their lifestyle. It just didn't go. But she loved it. I mean, she's like, I can eat it. Even still, the drawer liners still smelled like her grandmother.
Yeah.
She was committed to keeping it. She loved it, but she hated it. Right. It was one of those, I love it, but I don't like it. Can you somehow make me like it? And we brought it in and gave it a facelift, and it didn't, when we took it back and put it in the room, it completely didn't even look like the same furniture, but it's exactly what she wanted, and allowed her to continue to use something that she loved, but she didn't like.
Yeah. And I love what you guys do, the way that you do. You renew, you revitalize, you restore. I think I've seen a lot of the pieces that you've done where you kind of put a new twist on it, or you strip off all the old paint. When you put it back together, you kind of keep the classic styling, but you do something really interesting with the paint or the finish to kind of modernize it. And there's something about rescuing something that has been disregarded and being able to see that inner beauty, and then to transform it. I love paint. I love painting things. I paint junk at home all the time just because it looks so good when it's done.
Paint is great for that.
Yeah.
Just totally change the look and the feel of something.
And for you guys, it's got to be great to repurpose something that maybe would otherwise get thrown away, or maybe just people didn't realize how nice it was, how well built it was,
and that's a lot of what we do, because we've got we refinish and repair and restore furniture for people that bring in their grandmother's dresser or something like that. But then we also do a lot of salvage pieces where we'll We get people to call us in and they're cleaning out a house or something. They're otherwise going to throw the stuff in the landfill, but they want it to be put to some use, and they know that they can call us. And a lot of times we'll come and we can pick it up at our expense. And we've got a space here where we can store it until we can make it into something that. And sometimes you've got to rebuild a drawer, or you've got to put a new top on it or something like that. But it can be used again, and people really seem to love that.
Oh, I think the idea that you're saving something from the trash heap, and that it really didn't deserve to be there in the first place, and taking the time to make it nice again so that it's actually it went from the junk heap to a standout piece in somebody's home. That's incredible.
I mean, that's how we started.
Yes.
We started with some pieces of things that folks had thrown into the garbage in our basement.
Mm-hmm.
And now, over 2 years later,
Yeah.
here we are.
And neither
We're
of us
still
can,
here.
Neither of us can pass up a good trash pile. So.
I can't either.
And constantly say, just today, we're not bringing anything else in. There's a moratorium on new inventory,
Yeah.
nothing else. And I'm like,
20 minutes
I
later.
pick up my phone. I'm like, hey, we said that thing about the stuff and how we're not going to bring anything else in. Look at this. Yeah, we can.
Look how cool this is. We have it.
We can. Well, and in this case, she's like, I think this is exactly what was in my dining room growing up. Send that to my mom. Yeah, we can bring that in. It's fine. So here we are, just ricocheting all over the place, and it'll come.
The minute I say no more, not ever, I'm done, it happens. I've been
Just
needing,
go get it.
Yeah. I've been needing a pickup truck since the first of the year, and I've refused to buy one because I don't want the headache of another vehicle. And then, with no intention of, in fact, when I saw this little station wagon for sale, and I'm like, the price is too good. I'm like, I really don't want a little station wagon in my life. I don't want another car to flip or to sell or to fix up or whatever. And I just kept looking at it, and I looked at how much they wanted for it. And of course, it's sitting in my driveway
I
now.
was going to say, you drove it home.
I drove it home, and I did make out very good on the deal. But despite my reluctance that I didn't want another vehicle in the driveway in my life that I have to consider whether the battery's charged or anything, it worked out good. And I think, as we were talking before the podcast, turned down a job to do a lot of repair work at a house, but they had a big junk pile, and I saw some things in there that I thought had some value, and so I at least offered to make a deal to haul away the junk, just because it just bothered me that good things were going to get thrown away. Not that I necessarily wanted them for myself, or that there was part of me that I'm like, I can't believe they're throwing all this stuff away.
There's a place for any number of these
this
things.
is good stuff. Yeah. And so I even told the lady, I said, she goes, what are you going to do with all this stuff? I said, well, some of it I will keep and use, and a lot of it I'm going to just find a home for. I said, it just bothered me. That's because she said, well, I don't know, we'll see. And I said, no, seriously, I'll let's make a deal here for me to come haul this away. Like, I didn't want to leave until we had a deal, because it just so deep in me, and it's a nice day to ride motorcycles too, but it was just eating at me that all this good stuff was going to be thrown away. And so it ended up working out. A little blood, sweat, and tears, and several cuts on my hands, but
Those are the good days.
yeah, that's right. Well, there is something to be said for when you have one of those days where you really take on more than you thought, and you get home way later than you thought, and you expended more energy than you expected, and you didn't eat all day. That when you finally sit down and eat, and maybe even turn on a TV show or whatever, it feels great.
Mm-hmm.
Have a beer or a glass of wine or whatever at the end of the day after working way too hard. It's awesome.
We have a lot of those days.
I bet.
But we, continue by choice to have a lot of those days, so really can't complain.
No, I think is as much as while you're in the thick of it and you're kind of annoyed, when you go to bed at night knowing that you got a lot accomplished and you worked hard all day and you kind of worked to exhaustion.
Smelling of muscle rub and
yeah.
muscle rub, tears, and what you hope are good decisions.
I was literally grimy and dirty from head to toe, wearing shorts, and so my legs are covered. That was the best shower I've had all year. Was after working hard all day, to know that I'm done. There's food warming up on the stove. I'm taking a quick shower, and you just feel like you can truly relax because the work is done. and you didn't leave anything left behind, and you're exhausted, but now you can really sit down and you're not bored, and you're not fidgeting because your body's tired. It just wants to sit there, and you're clean, and you haven't eaten all day, and you got a nice meal, and it tastes delicious because
The
you're
lights
starving.
are on, the fridge is full.
Yeah, and versus if you just kind of hang around all day and you've been nibbling all day, and you're like, well, I don't want to take a shower in the morning, I'm not particularly filthy, I'll hop in the shower. It doesn't have the same feeling as when you've actually done something, and you lay down at night and you fall asleep because you're exhausted, not because, well, it's dark outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get that a lot. We actually had to force ourselves to take a day off.
Right?
Over this past weekend. I was like, we had gotten a giant load of salvaged furniture a couple weeks ago, and really beat the crap out of ourselves getting it in here.
Yeah.
And then another
Bad.
giant load of salvaged furniture right there that was going to be used for us, for our shop.
Yeah.
We said, I think we kind of deserve this day that
Right.
we're going to go, and we went over to Good Mansion Wines and picked up some cheese and some bread and some wine, actually some pasta for dinner, and sort of loaded up, did all of our shopping there,
Yeah.
and just kind of hung out and read books and
We watched a movie, and I think we were sat in the living room, and I honestly think that we've been together for years, and I think it's the first movie we've ever sat down and watched together that
that's
wasn't
funny.
with the kids.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, this is what people do all the time.
Yeah.
yeah.
This was nice.
Yeah.
But it's very strange.
Yeah, it's odd, right?
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what just happened here. It was very nice.
It is important to take that time to relax, and
We
it's
discovered
hard
we
to do.
have to.
Yeah.
Especially with the element, a lot of times what we do is so physical, especially when we're doing salvage.
Yeah.
And it comes in fits and starts, and you've got to take it when it comes.
Right.
But you run out of room and you run out of time, and we've got to really be careful to balance. We can't spend all of our time going out and hauling good stuff because we need to be here refinishing things, building things,
Working on the stuff we've already hauled.
working on the stuff that we've already hauled
Yeah.
here that is stacked really, really high everywhere around us. But that balance is, we have enough going on now that I think trying to strike the balance and everything we're trying to do is pretty important.
Yeah. Well, I think
Building efficiency. We've talked about this.
Yes. Well, and I think the one step where you're kind of ahead of the game is that you at least acknowledge that, because I think it's hard to have a balanced life in this world, especially these days living in America. And I think most people are way out of balance and don't know it. And, I got off track. I was doing a little bit too much on my days off. And so I stopped doing everything and took a break. And it was important, for me to, luckily I had the ability to do that. But yeah, to know that, there's something to be said for, you'll be more productive in the long run if you rest up.
You can have more of those hard-hitting days that you were talking about and get more of that satisfaction if you throw a couple of the
nice rest days.
those nice rest days in.
And we're finding that it'll allow you to work sort of 2 or 3 days worth of work when you really, really need to, so you can kind of earn that little respite.
Yeah. I was, even just with regard to sleep, I'm someone who doesn't like to go to bed early and doesn't particularly sleep well, but and I always thought that sleeping in's not good and it's just lazy or whatever. But then just kind of doing some research, that they find that if you get 8 hours sleep, that versus 6 hours sleep, that you'll be more productive. Those 2 hours, you're not really that good by the end of the day if you're not well rested, and that you're better off just getting the sleep and hitting it hard for the time that you are awake. And
We are such sleep divas.
oh yeah,
Oh my God.
you guys get your 8 hours or more?
No, we are not good sleepers.
Oh.
We're like a couple of colicky toddlers. We require very, very particular conditions to sleep, if we can even sleep.
Certain temperature and weight of blankets and
Noise,
darkness
lack
and
of noise.
white noise and
Yeah.
There is something to be said for proper temperature. They say that a cool room is the
Cold.
best. Cold, yeah.
Cold.
You really,
We don't have we remodeled the attic is our master, and there's really no heating or cooling, just spot heating and cooling.
Yeah.
We haven't put that back, and I think we keep it probably. We'd like to keep it in the 50s.
Yeah. Me
So when
too.
it gets really
Yeah.
warm outside, we get really, really cranky because we just can't air condition it enough.
Yeah.
And then we have too many air conditioners, and there's a window unit in each window, and then we can't get out on the roof. Everything's wrong.
You get the wrong hum
Everything's
going,
wrong.
get everything.
And I think we only ran the heater for 2 or 3 weeks this winter.
Wow.
And then we brought it up here.
We
Yeah.
brought it up here.
Brought it up here so we didn't freeze.
Yeah,
to
it's
death.
chilly in here, right? Yeah.
Oh my! We were run out of here for a while.
Yeah.
This winter.
Yeah, I remember that yeah, you guys moved the operations over to the house just because it was too cold in there. And of course, you guys had the flood,
I
which
was going
was
to say
terrible.
we moved the operations to our house, and about 2 weeks after that, we basically lost the back of our house.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we had something with the seal in the dishwasher failed, and
Yeah.
it kept filling and filled the kitchen, and then filled the room below the kitchen, and
Yeah.
which at the time had just been converted into our furniture finishing room. So
Yeah.
it filled up some furniture as well. That luckily the insurance was able to take care of everybody, us and our customers who sustained us
Right, yeah,
as well.
'cause-
Which is,
Oh, sorry.
That's
Sorry.
Two podcasts.
That's-
I've been hitting it hard this week myself, but yeah, I remember seeing you guys right after that happened, and you guys, I think, were as upset about your customers' pieces getting ruined as you were about your house getting ruined. You guys took that part really hard.
more upset
Yeah.
about. We can fix our own stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we can fix other people's stuff too, but
Yeah.
you always hate to go back to somebody and
Yeah.
say, you said this
they have to
me
make a
fix,
choice to have some sort of restitution for something, and not what they had, not what they brought us.
Yeah.
And that's where we were at. There were things that could not be fixed.
Yeah. That's tough.
It was awful, actually. Probably that month where we didn't know, you're going through and you're making lists and you're assigning values and you're talking with your customers and you're talking with two different insurance agents
Yeah.
because it's your homeowners and your business. And there's a period of time where we just sort of look at each other. We honestly don't know if this is going to be okay. We just don't know.
Yeah.
And that was because it was at that point, it was everything.
Yeah.
Because people will tell you, we're all in. Yes, we're all in, and it was our
Right.
home and our business, and
Yeah.
we were all.
Yeah, sometimes things happen like this where it adds another layer to the definition of that all in. Where
Yeah.
it's, and it.
What it really means to be all in. And,
Mhm.
Yeah. Because flying without a net is a really attractive thing until or what's the saying? I just used it in an earlier podcast. They jump and build a parachute on the way down. Well, that's
Yeah.
great if, like, most of the time you get the parachute built before you hit the ground, but every now and then the ground comes up quicker than you expected, and it's not such a romantic notion when it doesn't quite work out. When you find that plane was low when you jumped out.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that pocket full of fabric that you thought you had is still up in the plane.
Yeah, or it's cheesecloth or what? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just string.
This
Yeah.
isn't any good at all.
And like I told my recent customer yesterday, that sometimes you just gotta realize that you got shafted and build from there, and just this is the situation, and there's no sunny side to it, and it's unfortunate as it is, and you guys had definitely some rough days. I saw you when it was really bad, and then you guys kind of rallied and fought your way out of it. And
I don't remember when we decided it was all going to be okay,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I don't either. The main memory that sticks in my head is just coming down that morning. My 7-year-old daughter came up and woke us up and said, "Daddy, there's water coming out," and I tried to clean it up, and I can't get it to stop.
oh, poor kid.
And it's one of those, you're sort of groggy, like, what, wait, water
and I mean everything
coming
in our
out
house.
on the
It's
She was
floor.
trying
an
to
old
cl-
house, like something leaks to some degree. We're like, oh,
And I leapt down the stairs and saw the puddle, and then realized, wait, if the water's not all coming out of the kitchen floor, it's going to the basement. I knew it was in the basement. I ran down there, and it was the hot water, and so it was like a tropical rainforest, and it's sort of raining on my head. And I ran around and I took one of the pieces off and I grabbed the towel. We had a thing of clean towels in the laundry room, and I grabbed this towel and I wipe it off. I'm like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. And then all of the lacquer and the finish started to bubble up on it immediately because it was steamed off. And I just walked back in the room and the water was cascading down my face, and you sort of look around and it's steaming. I'm like, well, life is going to take a little bit of a new direction for a while now.
It was steaming the paint off the walls.
Oh my God.
Apparently, just fill a room with hot water if you don't want your paint anymore.
Yeah.
Just steam that paint
Steam it
right off.
Yeah. I had a near miss like that. The other day I came home and I heard water running, and I'm like, I have a small house. There's a kitchen and a bathroom, and went in the kitchen, obviously no water running. The floor's not wet. Go in the bathroom. Floor's not red, doesn't sound like it's going there. Ran down in the basement in a panic, thinking something down there is busted. Floors are all dry. Realized I'd left the garden hose on, and it was a cheap garden hose from Walmart. And the back, it must have, I don't know how long it was running, but probably only a couple hours. But I was like, thank God, like, just the panic that I had for a minute, and it was okay. It kind of put me in what your shoes were like when, had it not been okay, because you know, I have an old house. I don't even know if you can shut off the water properly. I know when I changed my faucet for my sink, I had to open and shut the valve 4 or 5 times to get it to finally seat enough so that I could turn the water completely off. Yeah, and
yeah, we're still pretty paranoid about them.
It's
filter under our sink that will fill up for a while, and it was for probably about 2 months that would run, and we're both looking at each other and grabbing each other and running in the base, and we're like, oh no, it's just the filter again.
It's the RO filter. It's fine.
And,
we haven't even replaced the dishwasher. We still have a dirt floor.
Yeah.
Our kitchen floors. We're the people. I mean, it's the carpenter's kids have no shoes.
Yeah.
The restorationist kids don't have a floor ceiling, and their kitchen
Yeah.
is a wire rack and a plywood table screwed to the floor.
Well,
it's cool. Someday it'll be great.
yeah, exactly. It's
we intended to do all of these things probably starting this summer. We didn't intend to do them in January under extreme duress, thinking that our business might be destroyed along with it.
Well, and I think you guys were smart to just focus on your business, and you kind of got your kitchen at least somewhat that you could live in your house, and
everything's functional and stabilized and secure, and the most important thing was being able to get back to work and
give that part of your life a break until when you have the mental energy to kind of focus on it and you're in the right place, and then
it'll be one day we'll get the last piece of the puzzle that'll build the island or the this or the that, and it'll be like, hey James, you want to come over? Oh God, I was here yesterday. Yeah, we redid the kitchen last night.
right.
That's just how it goes, and that's fine. And now we're fine, and we're back up here working, and that's as you can see with everything all around, we take up a lot of space.
Yeah. Well, and when you get involved in these kind of things, there are just you kind of live on a bigger edge sometimes than other people. So when it goes bad, it goes terribly bad, and when it's good, it's good, and you appreciate it, but you appreciate it more because you've been in those really bad spots, and
well, and the more you have, the more there is to break, and the more risks you take, the more chance there is for things to go.
That's exactly why why I put off buying a pickup truck, because I thought I'm not going to buy a brand new pickup truck, so anything I get could potentially, radiator leak, alternator goes out, flat tire, whatever it is, anything stupid that happens to it, I don't want to deal with it, and so, but on the other hand, such is life, and if you want to have things and do things, you kind of have to put yourself out there, and
calculated risk.
And
calculated risk or a really good sense of humor, sometimes a whole lot of both.
Mostly a whole lot of both.
So kind of a thing that's topic with me, but you guys said, I remember last time we did the podcast, I was kind of thinking about wanting to go into business and kind of, and then you're like, well, you got a good deal at the hospital. Maybe it's not the worst idea, which I think is still probably very true. But I think when I started my handyman business, I kind of lost my way there for a minute, and so I had to take a break. And I think to anybody that is starting a business, it's okay. You know, a friend of ours, you know, went through the same thing where I had to stop and retool and say, is this why I got into this business? And you guys seem to be really good, at least on focusing on, you know, the part of it that makes you happy and why you got into this in the first place, and you know, maybe getting out of certain lines of work and focusing more on other things that you enjoy more, that seem to work out for you more.
That kill us less.
Yeah, kill us
Yeah.
less. Yeah, we really try to, and of course you also get, sort of comes with some level of success at businesses. You get a lot bit off, or you get to where you've got so many people asking you to do so many things,
Yeah.
and if there's only one of you, or there's only two of you, or 4 or 5 even, you can only be in so many places at once, so you've really got to start to pick and choose, okay, what do I want to focus on?
And I think that the smart person, when they recognize that, oh, I'm in a place where I can pick and choose, and then, you know, you could pick or choose based on what's going to make you the biggest pile of money, or you could pick and choose on what would kill you the least, or be the most enjoyable, and to be conscious that there is a difference, and there's a lot of value in being aware enough to know the difference between the two.
Yeah, and sometimes you sort of choose to shoot the middle between
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
killing yourself and the pile of money. And
Right, because you don't want to put yourself in a position where you have to take a pile of money, and
Doing something that, not even necessarily that you hate, but that you know you've lost a whole different kind of margin.
yeah.
You know, there might be a big paycheck at the end, but
Yeah.
you can't move for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and there aren't enough
Sure.
chiropractors in the world to put you back together again.
half of that's going to go to the chiropractor.
Yeah, and just, you know, if you're thinking about trying to live every day like it's the last, and you take on a project that you really hate, even if the money is considerably better, you just think, God, is this what I'm spending my life doing? And, you know, I told you guys I recently turned out kind of a big project, and I'm so glad I did, because I think about, I would have been miserable. And at the end of the day, you have some paper with numbers on it and would allow you to do things, but is it really worth losing 2 months of your life in the summer? And, you know, it's,
That's sort of how we retired from hardwood floors.
Yeah,
yeah,
it
yeah.
is. Yeah.
My last memory of hardwood floors was Army crawling across the floor with a stain rag at 3:30, 4:30
Yeah.
in the morning. I got home after the garbage men came. So like,
Oh my God.
I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were returning a piece of rental equipment the next morning, and I mean, I think I was running into walls.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
It was a mess.
And sometimes you just need those awful experiences where you're just like, I'm done.
We were running sort of 24-hour shifts, because if I was there, he wasn't there. And, you know, we have a small business. We also have 4 children, and
Right.
shared custody with our ex-spouses. So our schedules are very, very strange. And, you know, he'd work 12 hours, then I'd go work 12 hours. And,
Yeah.
and you're sort of like, we don't need to do this quite
Yeah.
this way in order to survive, let alone succeed. So let's reevaluate this before something very, very terrible happens.
Right. And
And even if you enjoy the work, there's just too much
Yeah.
of it and too little
Yeah.
of you.
yeah. A 12-hour day every now and then, even, you know, a few days of it in a row, especially if you could, like my job, I work 3 12-hour shifts, but then I get 4 days off every week. But yeah, if there's that tipping point where it's just too much, and it's really, I think in your head you realize that there's no amount of money that's worth this trouble, and certainly probably, you know, especially unless, I mean, I guess if it's a huge enough sum where you're like, we're taking the rest of the year off, maybe that's worth it, but otherwise, you know, if it gets you ahead a little bit, it's maybe not as, you know.
Well, it's sort of like what you've said, and what I think you've dealt with in sort of getting the business started up recently, is you've got to think about, and I guess I can only speak for myself, or maybe for she and I, you know, you go into a business, there's reasons you go into a business, and some people decide, okay, well, I'm going to start my own business so I can make a whole ton of money,
Yeah.
and whatever comes along with that. We were not in that camp. You know, we started a business, as I think you did, like, I want to start a business because I want to do things that I
Yeah.
like to do, and be able to have some control over the schedule
Yeah.
that I do them on. so you've got to constantly evaluate to stay on track, especially if you've almost got the curse of like being good at what you do, and
Right.
people want you to do more and more and more of it, and then you've got to start making decisions of what work do I take on, and then you start to say, well, okay, well, if I hired one person or two or six people,
Yeah.
I could do so much more. But then you go from all of a sudden, if we had 5 employees, we wouldn't be people who refinished furniture.
You'd
We
be
would
managing
people
people,
who
yeah.
we would be
You
like
manage
HR
people.
managers.
Yeah. And if your goal is to build an empire, it's great. But if what you really want to do is work on the furniture, then yeah, it's better to. And I think I know I say in filmmaking, when you're directing a movie, you don't always know what you want because somebody might come up with a really great suggestion, but you always know what you don't want. And really, I always tell my friends when they're directing movies, my really only advice is going into it, know where your limits are of what you don't want. So if someone goes, oh, we could have a gunfire and blood everywhere, and you're like, this isn't a bloodbath movie. So it's a great idea. I get what you're getting. I can see how it's cool. That's not what this is. And you save a lot of time by just knowing the parameters of where you won't go, and then within that you can tweak it a little bit. But it is easy though to sometimes cross that line, and sometimes you don't realize that you've veered over the line unless you're really paying attention to it.
Yeah.
So I did this recent job that I kind of was in that situation. Luckily, the person I was partnering up with, he kind of acknowledged that this is not for me, and I'm like, you know what, I'm following you because you're saying what I should have thought, and that's really important when, especially if it's a lifestyle thing,
Sometimes saying no is so much more valuable than saying yes.
Yeah.
It's not, I really, and honestly, I think in building a business, what we've really begun to realize is that it's what we have said no to has been
Yeah.
far more valuable and important than the things we said
Yeah.
yes to.
Absolutely.
And as we go further, it really helps us hone in and
And
ratchet down what we're doing and allowing us to go in different directions,
Yeah.
because the more you say no to, then the more you can in turn say yes to, maybe in a different direction. It's
Yeah.
a better fit for whatever reason.
Yeah, you can actually lose money by saying yes because you end up not having the time for when a good opportunity comes along, or it just saps your energy and your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And what's the value of that? Once that's gone,
That
you're kind of
becomes a
screwed.
cost.
That's
Yes.
very expensive to get. I took a month off to reset my battery. So had I kept working consistently, how much farther ahead would have my business been? But I had to stop and I was burned out, and I only did it for 2 months. But
If it's not where you wanted to go,
Yeah.
to what end?
so far down the wrong path that I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just stopped. I'm like, I'm just stop and just think about it and not think, and more just not think about it. And then some nice jobs came in. I'm like, oh, okay, this is enough for me to get off my butt again. And
Well, and the nice thing too, like when you were able to stop because you didn't mortgage your house and
Yeah.
everything you own to go out and buy 6 figures worth of tools or equipment
Right.
or something like that, to where you were then locked into it whether you wanted to or not.
Right.
That's why you start small and you build incrementally, that's another. And I'm on a lot of sort of woodworking forums and things where people ask these types of questions, and I now feel like I've been doing this long enough that I can give some good information to some
Yeah.
of these folks. It's like, I can only speak for myself and what's worked for me, but start small, build incrementally.
Yeah.
Don't get too far out ahead of yourself, because I think people get far ahead of themselves, and they get in trouble, and they either when they get to the point where they want to stop, or they physically or emotionally or mentally have to stop, they're kind of screwed because they
Yeah.
have no income and all this debt sunk in, or they get into a place where they can't stop, and then all of a sudden you're locked into doing something you hate, and you're like, well, why did I take on all this? I could just go get a job working for somebody else that I hate.
Right.
And
With a lot less responsibility at
Sure.
the end of the day.
Yeah.
But in the building here, and everybody's got to do what works for them. So it's really not, it's
Yeah.
not a criticism, but
I
for
think
us, it wasn't, the goal wasn't, okay, we're going to go out and buy a $35,000 truck and get a $7,000 wrap to advertise ourselves.
Or just go into debt buying a bunch of, you guys are smart.
$12,000 cabinet saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we would really like a $12,000 cabinet saw. I want to make that very, very
If
clear.
anybody wants to
I'm
give
gonna
you
put
one.
it, I'm gonna put it right there.
There you go. Well, and
Probably going to even bolt it to the floor.
Yep.
you guys were really smart when you were doing the hardwood floors that you would rent a lot of the equipment because you could have easily bought it all. Then you're kind of stuck because you have the equipment
And some of the equipment for those things it costs more than a car.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Only to find out
so you
that
have
it's
to
not a good fit
yeah you have to use it just to get back on top of it.
to get out from underwater.
Yeah. The best advice I got was only buy a tool when you until you need it. Don't preemptively
buy.
Yeah, go out and buy
Yeah.
stuff. And I've done
Although
that.
it's really fun to buy tools too.
Oh, I go to Harbor Freight even and just buy like crappy tools there, but I spend way too much money. And
It's-
if I go to AutoZone and I walk by the mechanics rack and they have things on special, and I bought some really handy tools on sale without needing them, but they're kind of general use tools, and I've got all kinds of stuff to do fiberglass work, including fiberglass net, and I was going to build a motorcycle seat pan. It was going to be my first project, and sold the motorcycle as is before I got around to it. And so it's still there, and I think that's a lot of people's basements and garages is you have everything ready for a project, and then it's still in the bag, still's got the stickers and tags on it.
We've bought a lot of those tools.
And
Yeah.
then you see shiny stuff for a whole new project that you could buy.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, I haven't finished this, but this is on special, and
Yeah.
I don't need it, so I
Yeah.
have to buy it right now.
Yeah, I have the woodworking clamps like you guys have over there. I've got 2 of each in 4 different sizes. I wasn't working on a project at the time. I was just at the store, and they were on sale, and I bought them thinking these would be really cool someday, and never. And now maybe someday I will find a use for them.
You know, on the flip side, they're never, once you start using them, they're never, ever, ever enough clamps
Yeah,
in the world.
No.
yeah. So 2 of each is probably I'm right down the middle line where I spend a bunch of money and maybe
2
not.
of each is enough to attach to something long enough to go look for the other ones that you can't find.
That are too short.
Realize that you don't
Yeah.
have, they're
Yeah.
2 inches too short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like the problem-solving aspect of that kind of stuff where, earlier you were working on that dresser, like, well, we'll try it this way, and we'll try it this way, and that part can be fun and frustrating and kind of both at the same time. And
Some assembly required
Yeah.
yeah, like our lives.
Yeah, really.
with IKEA instructions. And the wrong sized Allen wrench.
Yeah, I hate anything that comes with an Allen wrench because I inevitably ruin the tool or the wrench that comes with it because it's cheap or it bends or, but. So the one topic that we always seem to get on is just how important it is for a lifestyle of that feeling of accomplishment that you're working towards your own future.
Yeah, it's well, working towards your own future and working for your own present
Yeah.
too. I think is
Yeah.
kind of just as much a part of that. And we've even used to sort of talking the subject of like evaluating whether you're really doing things right as you go. With 4 kids between the 2 of us, part of the reason we got into this business is at least theoretically we could pick and choose to be able to spend more time with the kids when it counts. And
Yeah.
of course, each of us only have our kids half the time anyway because they're from another marriage, and so they're 50% of that is already gone. So you don't want to like be chucking them off with a babysitter during that already limited
Sure.
The
time
only 50% that you have.
Right.
that you have. And we've reached points where we've kind of been in the shop here working on things, trying to scramble and finish projects up or this or that, and we're like sending the kids off to like ride their bikes and skateboards
Right.
upstairs, and they're like, well, when are we going to go home and get dinner? And I'm like, I've got to cut all this wood up. I don't know. Ask
Yeah.
me again later. And then we'll sort of stop and say, we've got to figure out how to not.
To not do
Yeah.
this
Have to do
this
this.
way.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do, everybody, and I think that's part of parenting too, is sometimes you do, and it's a good lesson for the kids to say, like, no, mom and dad we've got to work right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
You got to balance that.
Yeah.
being able to say, no, we're going to take our weekend on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
That's
which-
going to be our
which
weekend.
which we actually just did, and it was fantastic. It was sort of, there wasn't a great stopping place.
Right.
But we'd already made the plans, and we'd already bought the tickets, and it's one of those things, like it's a forced stop, and in that case, that was a good thing.
Yeah. Sometimes it is better if you just have it built in where you have to.
We had to go because we're too cheap to throw the money away. So we got in the car and we went, and it was great, and then we came back, fresh and
Yeah.
ready to get back to it, and it was warm enough. Now it's too warm to get back to it. But here, somehow we left and we came back, and it's gone from March to July.
Yeah. And where'd the time go?
In
right?
like 72 hours. I
Yeah.
don't know what happened.
Sometimes I really appreciate having just a regular job, because it's almost, I work the next 3 days, I can relax. Just the chaos of normal life, especially if you're trying to run your own business and dealing with all that, to just going to one job where you have, kind of one task that you have to do, or that set task, and you can't get distracted by anything else. You have to stay there and do that, and just focus on that one thing instead of the 50 other things that I have going on at home or when I'm not working. And
the start time and the end time.
Yeah. And it's 12 hours. It's not like I don't have to feel guilty about coming home and not working on one of my 20 projects that I'd like to get done. I'm like, no, you're going to go home and eat dinner and go to bed. And you're going to do that for 3 days. And that's about long enough to where when you finally get done, you're like, oh, I'm sick of being at work. I'm ready to tackle these projects again and to be outside. So for me, it's, as much as I originally was trying to get out of that and find a lifestyle where I'm starting to see the benefit in just having that reset button where you just go under the fluorescent lights, and it also makes you appreciate a day in the sun when you have to work in an office and it's a nice day.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
And one of the hardest, maybe two of the hardest things about when you are self-employed is getting yourself to go to work and getting yourself to stop working.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody there,
Absolutely.
telling you when to do
Yeah.
either of those things. And so sometimes it's sort of hard to get that motivation to go in. And
Yeah.
But then you get started, and we've had to, again, with kind of trying to be more of that lifestyle focus, we haven't been working really at all on our weekends when we have all the kids around, and that's been really great. It's been really great for us and them. And then it's also like on Sunday night, I'm chomping at the bit for Monday. I want to get back into the shop.
Yeah, you're ready to
I
start
wanna do
thinking
my
about
thing.
what you have there, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to get started on it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of it being a muddle, when we don't have the kids, we'll actually sort of work 2 or 3 shifts. We might sometimes get into the shop. We might roll at 8 o'clock in the morning and not go home for the final time until, and sometimes we're rolling dinner out at 1:30 in the morning. And that's
Right.
probably not so great too. We're probably trying to tone that down a little bit, but having the option to do that's not a bad thing either.
Yeah, right. To hit it hard, take a nice
Yeah.
break, and then hit it hard again.
I'd
take
rather
another
do
break.
that and know that the next
Yeah.
day when the kids are home, be able to just be with them and focus on
Sure.
them, not, no, get away, we've got to do X, Y, Z,
Yeah.
go.
Sure.
It's like, well, I was already gone, Mom.
Well, and it's nice to hit it hard while you have a head of steam and you're focused and you're able to do that, and to not just stop because the clock says it's time to stop, or start based on a clock, but based on your energy level and the work that needs to get done, and to be able to say, well, if I stay late today, I can take tomorrow off. How many people that have like a 9-to-5 job, if they have something they really want to do on Wednesday, would love to be able to, stay over 4 hours on Monday and Tuesday if they meant that they could take a Wednesday off, and just that flexibility that.
You can stay late,
Yeah.
but you'll still have to come in.
You just have to come in. That's the problem, right? Most jobs that
You
they,
can probably stay late. They probably won't argue with that, but
What
you'll
I
still be.
what I really would love at my regular job would be if if I said, well, I canceled my cable and I haven't been eating out as much and I haven't bought any new clothes in months, so, I'm just going to take an extra day off every week. Because I don't necessarily need that money for anything right now, so I'd rather just have the day off. And I know maybe people are listening to this going, what? Because most people always need more money if you have a car payment, blah, blah, blah. But I've stayed out of those traps, so I would love to just not use my vacation time, but just say, I think I checked my bank account. I just want a day off. I don't want to make any money today. I don't need to make any. I just would like to. It's a nice day. I just would like to have the day off. That would be really awesome to be able to do that. But obviously, even when you have your own business, that's not always the case.
That's how we start. How you just put that. That's actually how we were able to start the business. We figured out what monthly expenditures we needed to cut.
Yeah.
In order to meet the expenditures of meeting the needs to start the business.
Yeah.
And we cut them. We no longer have a car payment.
Yeah.
We got rid of cable. All of our internet we hotspot from our phones.
Right.
We eliminated hundreds and hundreds of.
And just taking the time to find a good deal on a cell phone plan versus just, I need a cell phone, this is the plan, I'm just going to pay whatever it is, that's expensive, and kind of thoughtlessly throwing all that money out there.
Well, and ours might seem like it's high, but it's us and a child, and
sure,
and it's also all of our. Basically, it's our business infrastructure too, and it's eliminated other bills. So that one bill may be high, but there are 2 or 3 other bills that we don't have at all.
Well, and just the fact that you paid attention to it enough. I was listening to Gary Johnson on the podcast, and he was talking about the difference between being frugal and being cheap. And being frugal is cutting waste, but still having everything that you need and a lot of the things that you want, versus just blindly spending money and really, the opposite of, frugality isn't being cheap, it's just not being wasteful. And I think taking the time to figure out, is this a good deal? Is it not? Where am I at with it? And rather than just, the alternator went out on my car, it's going to be $600 to fix it. I don't want to fix it, so I'm just going to go buy a brand new car, and not really thinking about whether that's a good. Maybe it is a good thing. Maybe it isn't. I can't judge for other people. What I can judge is the thoughtlessness behind the decision. I think it's kind of.
I don't think a lot of people realize that there's, it's like when you're sort of balancing your personal budget, it's an equation. There are numbers on either side of it. And you used the phrase numbers on paper earlier, which I talk about a lot of times. I think people don't realize that, they look, well, I'm this old, I've got this level of education, I'm in this industry, I should be making $53,287 a year. And so they beat themselves up if they're not making that much. And then they get to that level and they're like, well, okay, I'm making $53,270 a year. I've got to fill the other side of the equation up with like $60,000 a year worth of spending. Because, this is America, and that's sort of what we do, is overspend. But people don't realize that you can move the numbers. Most people realize that on that spending side, you can move it a little bit, but they don't realize that you can adjust it so much that then all of a sudden that income side doesn't have to be as high. Yeah. And instead of just putting those numbers down on paper to feel like, you've got sort of the worth measured that way that your boss or your society or your parents or whatever think that you should have, you can say, well, if you're going to spend $53,000 a year, you've got to make $53,000 a year. But if you can figure out how to, like you say, do the same thing on $25,000 a year, all of a sudden you're like, I only have to make $25,000 a year. Yeah. I can take half of this time that I'm working and go do something that I want to do.
Sure.
Ride a motorcycle, hike in the woods, those sorts of things.
I think that the value of just not having the stress of, do I have enough money for this bill? The comfort in, whatever happened, I can kind of get by till then, and just the kind of the financial security that comes with that, and the freedom to, like you said, to be able to, like, this is all I have to make. So there's just a freedom in that I think people it takes a little bit more of a long-term thinking because there's no immediate reward. Buying yourself free time, it's just a hard thing to quantify for a lot of people. And I see people, I laugh when they joke about working overtime or picking up shifts. I'm like, why the hell would I want to do that? What would I possibly buy with that money that would be worth my time to come and work another 12 hours every week? And that's maybe, I don't think that's a crazy way to think at all, but I think that it's absolutely crazy to constantly, unless you're paying off a big bill or you're planning a trip or you have a goal in mind, but just to have more numbers on this column
or to have a more expensive car in the parking lot that you then have less time to drive.
And the stress of it. And I always get on people all the time about cars and car payments and stuff, especially brand new cars, because it is awesome to have a brand new car, drive it off the lot, and you pay $500 a month. The problem is 5 years from now, it's a 5-year-old car and you're paying $500 a month and now the brakes need replaced and all stuff. And 5-6 years in a car's life, it is no longer worth it to you to pay that much money. But that's the deal. So
that's a static number.
Yeah, and then so what
until
ends up
the bitter end, or you can just keep rolling it over and over and being more and more underwater.
Right, and so then you just
which is what I think the trap that folks fall into, because they think they have to. They think they have to. It's perceived need.
Yep.
After 3 years, you're paying $500 a month on the 3-year-old car, and some salesman comes along and goes, for come up with $1,000 down, you could trade your car in and drive a new car for $500 a month, and you're like, wow, that's great. But in the end, you never ever pay it off.
You never get out from under that,
and just I can't put a value on not waking up in the morning going, shit, how am I going to, that bill comes to you like, and that's just a terrible thing to be in, especially if you're not particularly have a job that you love or something, and you feel trapped by that. Yeah. And I know somebody that told me that they have to pick up extra shifts at a second job just to make their bills. So I'm thinking, are you driving a Rolls Royce or what in this?
What's going on
here?
Yeah,
did you run up a bunch of credit card debt at some time or something? That I felt truly sorry for this person, because you could see the desperation when they looked at the schedule and like, they didn't give me enough overtime hours this week, and I'm like, they truly felt like they weren't going to make it on overtime. I'm like,
not going to make it on too much.
Yeah.
That's, I think we've all. I mean, I've been there.
Sure, I was too. So I as much as it might sound like I'm talking down about people like that, when I lived in Dayton,
I've been there. I did that. I had the $500 a month car payments and all of those things, and at the time it was a perceived need, and then it's like, wait a minute, I can pay $86 a year for AAA, that if my car breaks, my fully paid for car breaks down, they'll come get it, they'll get it where it needs to go, and then I'll go rent a car. You know why I can go rent a car? Because I don't have a $500 a month car payment.
Yeah.
So until something gets fixed or what have you, and just looking at things in a different way. Expenditures on new clothes and just things.
We've been really doing some of these calculations on a house recently. We've got a house in North Wheeling. It's a couple blocks from here. We did our last podcast from there. It was built in the 1880s. It's a great house. It's solid. It needs work like every house built in the 1880s.
Sure.
Or 1980s.
Or any house built in the 1980s or 2008. But we're sort of looking at it, and it's like we're getting married. Melissa bought the house whenever it was just her and her 2 kids, and so not necessarily planning on all of a sudden having 2 adults and 4 kids.
Right.
2 cats and a dog, and I don't even know how many hermit crabs at this point. And so we're thinking, okay, well maybe we could look into, and sort of looking, maybe we could get a ranch house out in the country, or maybe we could get a nice. We both really, our home is a Victorian home. We both really love American Craftsman style houses, and well, maybe we could get the nice Craftsman house. And we're looking at these different houses in Woodsdale and things like that, and then we're kind of doing the math and doing the calculation of the equity that we've got in it, and the fact that we're going to have to fix a lot of things that are in this house, like our kitchen, the aforementioned kitchen.
Before you can even sell it,
Before we can even sell it. But by the time we fix it, we're going to have all that stuff like right where we want it.
Yeah, and
So it's like we're going to fix this
Make
house
it
up,
beautiful and get rid of it.
make
Right.
it beautiful, get rid of it, move into something where we're probably going
That's
to
what
Have
make
to
it
do
lose.
those
beautiful
same
again, yeah.
things all over again.
right.
Yeah, we're going to lose all of our equity. We're probably going to be paying more because the price of housing is going up.
We have a really low mortgage as it is.
Yeah.
And I look at, and again, it's sort of the prices that people pay to live in some of the places that they live in. Even just right here in our local area,
Yeah.
not to mention where you look at like, people who live in Seattle and pay
Outrageous.
$2.5 million for like a tent.
Yeah.
And it's just outrageous. And I can't justify
Yeah.
it. And yes, so we've really come back to like, no, we're pretty good where we're at. We're gonna stay here and
Yeah.
get this place where we want it. It's just fine. It's not. And again, it's like your old car where the salesman comes up and this thing's getting to be a couple years old. It might
Yeah.
break down and this and that. No, it's perfect. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
You sort of got.
I
it
came here
broken
for a new
in and-
tire.
Yeah. And
it's fine. It just needs new tires.
and if it does have a catastrophic repair, I will call the crusher and have them take it away, and I'll be sad because I like the car, but I've at this point I've gotten my money out of it, my value out of it,
Yeah.
and
It's
even-
probably still worth something broken.
Yeah.
We
Well-
got lucky with that one
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
my Honda, which I love, and I got a really good deal on it, and the transmission is not the best, but so far I've taken it on all the way down to Seneca Rocks and up and down the mountains, and I finally was like, I can't remember the last time I had an oil change. It was 12,000 miles ago. and
Well, I recommend that you do that.
I did. I finally got the oil changed, and I thought, it's got 215,000 miles on it, and with the money I spent on it, even if the transmission goes out, it's probably worth, since I do like the car, putting $600 in a new transmission on it, or
Someone will buy it
probably
who's willing to do that.
Yeah.
Willing to do that. Yeah.
And I actually bought it cheap enough that I could probably sell it for what I paid for it with a blown transmission, and so
We did that with a pickup.
Yep.
that's right.
We bought it. We drove it for nearly a year. The brake lines went out, and we actually sold the vehicle disabled for more than we paid for it
Yeah.
after we had driven it for almost a year.
Yeah.
So,
And
that's another, the sort of the thrifty, frugal, cheap.
yeah,
What do you need? I don't need a $50,000 truck because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to beat it up.
yeah, right. And that's the other thing too. Like, I get everything muddy. I drag.
They're pretty.
Yeah, and they've got basically flat screen TVs in the dash.
It's like a luxury
Yeah,
apartment
and
on wheels. But
90-way adjustable. Yeah, it is really an apartment on wheels, and literally for 3 car payments, I bought my car. For maybe less, probably for a big truck, probably 2 car payments were more than my car, and again, that's hey, if you got the money and you enjoy that, but I think
where do you find your joy? And I think that's the most
Yeah,
important thing. And we, for us and our family, decided that's
I
not
think-
where it was.
I think some people, they almost feel like they have to do that. Like you see so many people with new cars and new this and new that, the perception is that you have to have that. I don't know how many people have told me that, oh, that car's got 90,000 miles, you got to get rid of it. I said, this isn't 1974. When a car got 100,000 miles, it was
spontaneously combusted.
right. Yeah,
on the road.
my Honda has over 200,000 miles. I'm not stressed about it at all, and so just part of it is just lack of maybe knowledge that no, actually, when you get up over 150,000 miles, somebody else already paid for all the stuff that breaks at 125,000 miles.
Yeah.
And at 80,000 miles, and you're getting it cheap enough that
A
when
lot of your systems are brand spanking new.
Yeah. Most of that stuff is built to last a lot longer than that. And so it comes down to if you take care of it, the rest of it, don't tear the seats, don't let the body rust, don't scratch the paint.
We have a 2005 Honda Odyssey that has as many luxury accessories and options on it as our formerly owned 2014 Volkswagen Passat TDI SEL Premium
Right.
XYZ QTF. Doesn't cost $500 more.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, right?
And the kids love it. We love it. It has heated seats.
I love it.
which-
I rode in it. It's a very nice van.
We can slide a full sheet of plywood or drywall or something in it and lay it down flat and close the door behind it.
Perfect, right?
It doesn't fit in a
hot
Volkswagen Passat.
Volkswagen. Yeah,
It
right.
does not.
I mean, I'm not going to say we
put
full
them in
sheets
it.
of Luan and pushed it up over the headrests. God, the things we
Yeah.
did to that car. That would sort of be a podcast in and of itself.
The makeshift, how to make do. Yesterday, I had a load of garbage, and it was mounded over the back of the truck, and I put a tarp on it, and then I remembered that I didn't load my wheelbarrow yet. So I literally, thinking on the fly, threw the wheelbarrow on top and tied straps around it, and then it wasn't gone anywhere at the end, but I'm like, oh, I can't leave it here. I'm not making a trip back down for a wheelbarrow that's really not worth that much money. So, it is amazing when there's a will, there's a way. I'm like, oh, I'll figure it out somehow.
Strap it on there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. If you got long enough ratchet straps, you can haul anything.
Yeah.
You just bungee it down and.
We do a lot of that. We'll still manage to load this van as exponentially larger as it is to where go to do pickup for furniture for a customer or something who has some salvage or something, and we get there, and I usually like to go in and lay my eyes on everything that we've got to put in, and then I start calculating
Right.
the Tetris in my head, and I'm very frequently like, this isn't going to fit. This isn't all going to fit. And she's
Yeah.
like, no, it's going to fit. It's going to fit. Like, it's not going to fit, and most of the time it fits.
Yeah. It's a.
I had Tetris too.
Yeah, it is. I know as a drummer, first time you get a new drum set or a new car, whatever, there's that where you spend a good bit of time figuring out how to pack everything in. So, and then once you get it down, don't put anything in the car. You can bring it out to the curb. I have to pack it because
Yeah.
everything goes a certain way, and it's almost an art form of how much can we get in here if my technique was like, I'm going to put a tarp on everything, and then I'm going to start shoving stuff under the tarp before I tighten it down. So, so I kind of worked from that angle, and I was able to get quite a good bit more on from that. And, I enjoy the challenge of that once every so often, not all the time. I would
Yeah.
have to
Some days are better than others.
Yeah, right.
Some days you're like, I can't. I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah.
I can't do this. Somebody else is going to do this.
Well, I think for people that are considering that kind of lifestyle, it's important to know that maybe overall it makes you happy, but that there are moments where it sucks. And we did a podcast earlier, and we talked a good bit about weight loss and the benefits of it and how rewarding it is, and the fact that there are moments of it when it sucks. And so probably anything that's worth spending time on there, if you're working towards a goal, especially if everybody's not doing it, there are moments where it's just not fun. The hardships of life work their way in, and
Yeah, everything sucks at some point.
Everything sucks at some
For the most part, I think everything, and probably everything that's worth doing, there's a point at which
Sure.
it sucks.
and I even think that it's very easy to lose perspective. Like you guys have been out of an office job for long enough that if you think really hard, you can remember how bad you hated it. But at the same time, you get detached from it long enough, and
No, I still very clearly remember how much I hated it.
That's good.
At the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
I was at a point in my life that was something that I couldn't do anymore.
Yeah.
Because I didn't always hate it.
Yeah.
I just got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. I think my parents have finally
Accepted it.
stopped. They've accepted that it's like I'm not going to go to law
Right.
school. I'm not going to go. I'm done. My degree terminus has been reached. I'm not going back to school.
Right.
I'm not going back in an office.
The
And clearly, I'm not homeless.
Right.
We still have a car. We still have electricity and water.
Yeah.
Everything.
That on that note, the idea that when you do take an unconventional path, it is really weird how many people that just don't want to accept that you're happy that it really irks them that you know, that you're not doing what everybody else is doing, that you're taking a path that maybe they don't understand or they wouldn't take, and it for some people it really drives them nuts that, you know, you've decided to walk
We
down.
still have that. I mean, my parents are like, you cannot both be self-employed.
Yeah.
You can't both be self-employed. One of you has to have a job with a direct deposit paycheck dumping.
Yeah, 401k.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
You have no retirement. You have no.
And I don't think that's bad. It's not bad advice.
It's not. It's just one of the, it's a lack of understanding, and everyone wants different things.
Yeah.
So that's really, I think that's really the biggest thing. It's like, I'm not, it's that is all true if you think that I'm trying to get to the same
Right.
end of the race
Yeah.
that you are,
Yeah.
but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you
yeah.
about it. I don't expect you to come do it, but
Well, it's not like, well, I got fired from my job, and so, you know, we're stuck having to find furniture that we could fix and try to resell to make ends meet. That's not what you guys did, you know. That's, you know, and that could be the perception.
I mean, it was almost that poetic.
It was, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some element of it, but it was.
But at some point there was, well, you can start putting applications in to get back into the rat race if you really wanted to, you know, that you know.
We could. And
I
there
remember
were-
you directly telling me I didn't have to go do that anymore.
Yeah.
After like picking me up after I'd
Yeah.
probably been sitting underneath my desk
Sure.
crying for 8 hours.
But you know, I mean, like the idea that you don't have a 9-to-5 job because you can't find one or whatever. It's
Or because no one will hire me.
yeah,
or
that
because
that you're
it's-
destitute, and that you know, this is all that's left, or that, oh, what was them?
It was an active choice.
Yeah, it was to accept the fact that was an active choice, that now this is actually what makes me happy, what I want to do with my life, and
It's not a consolation prize. It's
right,
not.
yeah, and there's definitely, we live in a world, that old school thinking where really, how much do you make? That's it.
But you had
Yeah.
such a nice office job,
Yeah.
and you had this beautiful
and
car,
the security
and, like,
and blah blah blah.
and I was miserable.
Yeah.
I was so miserable, and I spent so much more money.
Oh.
And I made more money, but
Yeah.
I mean, when we actually, we've got an accountant and everything now. It's wild
Yeah.
what grown-ups we are.
Right, so fast.
We grew up so fast, and realized the expenditure cut at the time of making this choice
Sure.
to start the business was almost $15,000 per year. In one fell swoop, we sat down and made decisions to cut our expenditures. And that's not even factoring in things like we started buying all of our clothes at thrift stores and
Sure.
things, just things.
Yeah, because if you're going to be staining a dresser, you don't want to buy a brand new shirt from, you know, the high-end store at the mall. You wanted a shirt that you bought for $25, right? And
Well, and I mean, I'll still buy a $500 suit. I'll just buy it for $1.25 at St. Vincent's.
true too. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
And I'll still carry an $800 handbag, but again,
St. Vincent's, yeah.
but that was sort of huge to really think about that. I hadn't really thought about it in that big block. I knew we had cut a ton of things,
Yeah.
and I could look at it in a monthly picture. But $15,000 a year
Yeah.
can be someone's annual income, and we just
Yeah. Well, and
really, without any pain and suffering, it really didn't change our lives that much.
and think of how many hours you had to spend at an office under the fluorescent lights doing something that you don't like to make that $15,000. That how much
that now I don't need to spend at all.
Yeah.
Well, and we've also I have, especially sort of old friends of mine, people who know me for a long time, and I think it happens to you too, come up like you look so much happier now.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you're happy, but you look
Sure.
a lot happier now. And it's true, I am. I think that you are too. And but it obviously, like, it shows people,
Sure.
and it's the flip side of, for everybody who's like, I don't understand how you could do that, and you need to go get a quote unquote real job and all these sorts of things. We've got people coming up like, we just love you guys. We just love watching what you do. It's like an adventure, and we follow along.
Yeah.
I don't know you. Who are you?
And people are like, no, we know you. We see you on Facebook. We see you on the internet. We know you. We know, like, what your cat's name is.
I don't know you. Nice to meet you. Who are you?
Yeah.
I think it is very appealing for a lot of people. I don't know that it's for everybody, because you have to have that when things get tough, and when, the days when you don't have a boss that's telling you have to be there by 8 o'clock. The world is your boss, and you better be there by 7 o'clock, because that particular day you need to be self-motivated and self-reliant. And
there are still those. I mean, we'll have those days where you wake up on Monday and that by Friday you've got to cover $700 worth of bills.
Yeah.
With, the mortgage and the lights and the this and the that, and we'll look at the bank account and there's $7 in it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're gonna, and I think we've just gotten. We used to freak out about it. Now we've gotten to a point like we're gonna make it. Okay, now
Figure
we
it out.
know what we have to make happen. We're gonna go. We don't know exactly how we're going to close this gap. We've got an idea of a lot of ways
Sure.
that we can. Let's go out and do it.
And then we
out
go
and do
and,
it. And
we go and more than close the gap
yeah,
every single time.
that little motivator to
We
get your
meet-
hustle on. And
We meet,
Yeah.
we meet the mark,
yeah,
and it's sort of a magical ride.
yeah, and being in those
And
moments.
some days it's terrible. Some days like I can't. This is the stupidest thing I've ever done
Yeah.
in my life.
Yeah.
And you shut the doors, you lock the doors.
Well, and-
you go home, you wash your hands, you wash your face. You think about it for me like, I'm doing exactly what I want to do.
Well,
I was having a toddler fit. I'm going to
Yeah.
go back to work
And
now. It's fine.
maybe you have that epiphany too when things are dire, that maybe you're like, oh, there's a revenue source, there's a way to make money that we hadn't thought about, but the desperate times kind of got you to focus on, and then maybe it helps you alleviate. Maybe the next time you're like, oh no, there's a money thing right there. There's a money tree out there that we didn't realize we could pick from. The branches, here's how you get to the branches, here's what you need to harvest that, and then the next time it's not quite so hard and stressful, and whether it's necessarily the exact way that you want to go about it, but push comes to shove, you get, like you said, that you're gonna make ends meet because you've been there before. You kind of rely that you have enough experience and skills that you can put it together. It's kind of a pain in the ass, and probably gets less and less of a pain in the ass as you have more tools that you're ready.
Well, and you build confidence in yourself. That's one of the biggest parts.
Yeah.
I think that the part of the reason that gap closes is because of the faith and the confidence that gap will close it, and that you're the one that's going to close it. You're not
Right.
going to
You're
wait
not
for
waiting for
somebody
somebody else. Yeah.
out. Obviously, you're waiting for somebody in the sense that you've got to find a customer, you've got to sell them something, you've got to do
Yeah.
this or that, but you're not waiting for the sales department to go out and
Sure.
make enough of a sale so that you can still have a job next month or next week. You're not waiting for the boss to put the payroll
Yeah.
together. You go out and do it, and you know that it's not going to get done unless you go do it. So
you just get to it. Yeah.
it's got that dual motivation.
And yeah, definitely having that there's nobody else that can screw you up. On the other hand, you're completely responsible, but yeah, nobody's going to mess it up for you either, and that's kind of nice. And I know, from my time with filmmaking, that after a while you get used to the fact that whatever the plan is, it's going to fall apart, and especially for that being an endeavor that's supposed to be for fun, I had to remind myself that, all right, things are going to fall apart, and you can't get upset and stressed about it, because then why do it at all? And so you just kind of, whatever it is, all right, well, we lost that location, we're filming in an hour, don't freak out.
There's a better focus of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, let me get a cup of coffee, and I'm sure it'll come to me. And literally that, in fact, with the podcast, every now and then I'll have a location picked out, and we were going to actually record one this evening, and it looked like it was going to rain. So, but we wanted to be able to drink some beers and stuff like that, because it's my last one of the day. And I'm like, well, there's a couple places that I had in mind where it didn't work out. I'm like, I'll figure something out. I got to make a few phone calls or something like that. And I'm like, it'll work out. There's always an option, and maybe one day I'll hit the wall where that doesn't happen. But usually you figure it out. Even like with loading that truck, I got that wheelbarrow, and I've got, I'll fit it all under. There's no not fitting it all on there.
Yeah.
Or dismantling a giant piano.
Yeah, dismantling.
Right? Yeah. I might have to take that sledgehammer and break it into a million pieces to get it to fit, but it will
My
be.
God, it's going home.
It's
with
going
me
on
today.
there.
Yeah.
When I was really into riding bicycles, I remember going to the Kroger's not close to my house. I go to the one far away, because I mean that's the fun is to ride. So I'd ride to the Kroger's, which was about 6 miles away. It wasn't super far away, and I'd go in and I'd buy groceries as if I had my car with me, and I would buy whatever it is I needed for the week, and I'd walk out to a bicycle, and they'd be looking at me, and I'd have it parked out in front of them. You got a ride coming or something? I'm like, no, I'll figure it out. And I'd literally take 2 cantaloupes and tie the bags together and put them over the main frame of the bike. And I had those little bar ends, so I'd put a bag on each end of those to balance it out. And I'd had a rack on the back with a bunch of bungee straps and a backpack. And even today with the motorcycle, I'll go shopping and I'll get a bag of apples. Well, it won't fit, but if I open up the bag and dump them in the saddlebags, I can. One way or the other, I'll get it home. I've
Put
stuck
one apple in each pocket.
Yeah, I've stuck
Yeah.
things down my shirt before to make the ride home, and so there's that. I always have that kind of feeling. I'll get it home.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you hit that wall, and you're like, oh, can't scale this wall.
Yeah.
And rather than sort of like get mad and start beating on it, you sit down, you lean against it, and you drink a coffee or a beer or something like that, and then you get up and you're like, okay, now we're gonna climb over this, and,
Yeah.
and you figured
Yeah.
it out, and you just climb over it.
Or you're sitting there, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize there was a ladder there. I was so upset.
Yeah,
that I
there's a
couldn't.
ladder.
That's-
Hey, wait, here's a door. It's
Yeah, there's a
unlocked.
door. Yeah, and that so often.
There's a lot of that in here. A lot of that happens in here because there's no set
Sure.
way to do. Even if it's, on the other side, there are 2 tables sitting over there to be refinished and
Yeah.
they look kind of similar. It's not going to be the same task.
Sure.
There's no menu. There are no directions.
Well, and part of the fun
Something's
is
gonna
the
happen.
constant problem solving, isn't it? What's the best way to do this? And
It's amazing,
Yep.
and when you go back and look, doing similar tasks
Yeah.
later, like, I thought this was sort of an insurmountable thing, and,
Yeah.
and even like, I swore when I finished doing this particular dresser, I was never going to do this ever again. Oh, look, there are 3 of them over there.
there we go again.
But each one gets a little easier.
Sure.
You become there's always something different to do, but you've got, and that the confidence, you really build a different level of confidence that
Yeah. The hurdles get smaller. It's the same problem, but it gets easier to overcome the more you do it, and just the less. If you know in advance how to get over it, it's less stressful than not knowing, and maybe you even find an easier way the more you do it. And I think that's the fun of those kind of things. Is I made that mistake before, so I'm not going to make it again. And or just me and my brother, he was teaching the class, and we had a couple abandoned cars that we had to haul away, and it was back-breaking, stressful, sweaty, but at the same time, we'd stand there and look at it like, all right, what's the best way to get this done? And there's a certain fun in that of just trying to problem solve, and it was. When it runs to where it's getting dark and it's no longer interesting and fun anymore, it just sucks.
Yeah.
That's different, but
Brain
there was
drain.
definitely a part of it.
You feel like it's never going to end. Like we're gonna die
Yeah.
right here.
But when you come up with that plan, you're like, let's try this, and it works. It's a small victory that you, for the moment, you're like, yeah, like you feel great.
We'll both have different aspects or furniture projects that we'll be working on, whether it's refinishing or fixing or building something that you'll get, and you get so far, and then you realize that the plan you made doesn't work.
Yeah.
And we might set it aside for a couple months, and go. I mean, there are things that I think both of us have like covered up with a blanket so that we didn't even have to.
I can't
look
deal
at
with
it
this
anymore.
You're dead
Like,
to
I
me.
can't even.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is dead to me.
Yeah, and my thing, we're close enough to the river that we could
Chuck it.
theoretically haul
Everything.
things down and throw it in. Like, this is going in the river
That's the
tonight.
patent answer. I'm like, oh God, he's serious. This has become.
And usually, right about the time that one of us is ready to throw something in the river, it's you.
There's
do,
some
you
sort
do
of
something on
epiphany.
something else that you realize applies to this problem,
Right.
or you're reading this article on this fixing this other thing, and you see the little trick to fix this, and then it's done. Like it's
Yeah.
like 4 hours later, you're finished with it.
And either just in the short term, if you get really frustrated and you're going too fast, you need to stop, take a deep breath, and just in the long term where I am spinning my wheels, I need to just
Walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And fresh eyes, whether the next morning or
And there's
weeks
always
later.
something else to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've got a film project that we shot the winter before last. And it's still sitting on my computer because I just got stuck with it. And, luckily there's no hard deadline, but at some point I think the inspiration will hit me and I'll sit down and be like, yeah, okay, now it's all coming together, but I haven't found that piece of the puzzle. I know what it's missing. So when I find out, like, I can finish that movie. Right now it's the music mostly that when I hear the right piece of music, I'm like, that's what I need to kind of get it on the road. And that's it. There's a lot to be said for just step away from it, and
Yeah. Yeah, I usually keep, even like when you came in, I was working on this bar top, and
Yeah.
I try to have sort of a putter project off to the side where if it's, I'll hit a wall on something, even a little one,
yeah,
and say, I'm going to guess I went and put a little top on this shop table
Right,
over
right.
here. It took like 10 or 15 minutes, and then I look back up at the bar top, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've just got to adjust the router like this, and then
And it works.
and it was done.
Yeah.
What I was stuck on was done.
that is great to know that in advance, that's kind of how your brain works, and that's what works best. And yeah, I like the idea of a putter project. Like, this is just easy, it's just for fun, and it's kind of something I want to get done, but it's, you almost save those for when you need something to
I
gratify.
think it's kind of changed your dynamic with yourself in the shop.
I think it
Because I mean, it's not, if something like that happens and there's a breakdown, you can't get it, it's not like he's not arguing with me, but I'm watching him extremely frustrated and he can't accomplish what he's trying to accomplish. And I don't want to see him feeling that way,
Yeah.
but he just shifts gears and moves off to something else. And I sort of look at that and I'm kind of like, I don't have to continue beating my head against a wall
Yeah.
for this. And sometimes it's not that it's an insurmountable thing, it's just a drudgery of a task.
It just sucks.
Or it hurts your shoulder because you're
Yeah.
over your head or
I
flipped
just
over
want to do
backwards or
something
upside down.
else.
Yeah.
Just have to walk away.
Yeah.
That really helped. It's
And sometimes you need to set yourself up to win. If you're running into a lot of problems, you keep
Yeah.
losing, and you need to even just kind of trick your mind into feeling like you've got to win. So if
Yeah.
you've got something that's really easy that
Your
you
little
could go and
two-stepper
knock it
over
out.
here.
You kind of get to trick your mind into like, oh, well, I just had a victory. I'm going to go right on and have another victory, and then you can.
Absolutely. I kind of enjoy, like, if the kitchen's a little messy or the garage a little messy, perfect. Put on a podcast. I'm just going to get this all tidied up here. It's going to look good. There's nothing hard about it. There's nothing to figure out. It's just work. But it's nothing too awful about it. And in fact, right now, I've been kind of busy the last few days. I've been cooking on the fly, and so I got a sink full of dishes, which I hate. But on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get up tomorrow morning. I don't have anything to do. I'll put on a nice podcast and make some coffee and clean up my kitchen. And I'm very excited about it as I talk about it
and
now.
blow through this task.
I'm such a nerd when it comes to that. I mean, I get the greatest satisfaction of pulling everything out of the garage, sweeping it out, cleaning it up, washing the cars and the bikes, and putting everything back. And that might be a whole Sunday, and then just like before I go to bed at night, one more walk out into the garage, and just everything is, that's my favorite part of the house, is the garage, because I'm a man. But yeah.
I wish we had a garage.
It's
Oh.
the favorite part of my property is the garage. My garage is literally, I clean and sweep the floors in my garage probably more often than my house, because I don't like to sweep the floors in the house. I don't even like to be in there. I like being in the garage. I like the door open and the fresh air, and I feel, I guess, more at home there.
We'll do that a lot here in the shop.
We just stop and start.
We'll stop and just have
Yeah.
to reset the space, especially
Manic
if you've got
tidying.
a lot of projects going all over, and it just gets.
It just gets out of hand.
Well, and, for me, it's my nerdiness or whatever.
It's on the verge
The
right
bringing
now.
chaos, the sorting and organizing, it hits a sweet spot for me where, I love finding that little nook for everything, and putting everything into place, and just going through all of it. So, I have to admit that pile of tools and supplies and stuff that are filling up one bay in my garage.
Waiting for you.
Oh, I'm so excited to pull the car out, push everything in the driveway, and just one by one go through it and find a space for it, and maybe build some shelves and get it. It's right now it's a big mess, and I'll make it completely organized and there's something about that I love creating that order out of chaos, and to the extent where I even, do a lot of cooking at home anymore. I'll purposefully not keep up when I'm cooking a lot and preparing a lot of food, and I'll just throw, I'll get out a new bowl or a new thing and just throw everything in the sink and kind of just make a mess as I'm going along and not clean as I'm going along, because then I have this big mess at the end that I can have the fun of cleaning up.
Get that big satisfactory hit of order.
So I'm crazy in that way. It's
I don't think it's crazy at all. I had a time sort of before we made the shift to what we're doing now. I was just struggling a lot. I didn't feel well.
Mm-hmm.
I was overwhelmed by everything. I just wasn't in a good place.
Yeah.
And I read this thing, and our conversation today reminded me of it. It was something, if you're feeling overwhelmed, polish your sink. And I remember reading that. I mean, that is the stupidest thing I have ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was also like, if there's a tidbit of something that says you can try something, for the love of God, try it.
Whatever, it can't hurt.
It can't hurt anything.
Yeah.
And it's still something that I noticed, and you made a comment at lunch today, like, God, we need to sandblast the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
There is something so therapeutic. If I can't get my mind right, taking a magic eraser and lemon juice and polishing our stainless steel kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Because you'll invariably walk in and be like, it
looks great.
The ceiling could be caving, and be like, my God, that sink is so clean. It's shiny and makes the counter look cleaner and the room look brighter. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of, maybe it's a trick of the mind, maybe it's a change of perspective, maybe it's all of those things. But it was just I just remember initially reading that's dumb.
Yeah.
This person is stupid. And then be like, maybe there's kind of a point to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that kind of works.
Yeah.
Maybe I still do that.
Right. Yeah.
I'll do that with the shop floor. It's like we'll be on, you talk about the satisfaction of cleaning up a really nasty floor like it is right now. And we'll be on deadline sometimes on a piece where it's like, I've got to get this thing together, and the clips I bought don't work, or the screws aren't, or the hole that I planned to drill to do this thing doesn't line up, and I'm trying to figure it out, and it's, we've got to have this thing out the next day or something like that, and I'm like sweeping the floor and like organizing sandpaper.
Yeah.
To have the ability
we were on deadline,
and
I went through and took all of our sandpaper and made vertical hanging files.
Nice.
It just in the middle of, and he'll be sweeping the floor, and I'll be in the other corner making the biggest mess you ever saw. He's like chasing me around with a shop broom. So like, this seems counterintuitive, but it works, and at different times you need your brain to reset.
Yeah, and speaking of workspace, where it's the kitchen and the garage are my two favorite places at my house, and even more than my cabana, and it's got a hammock by the creek, but I still like the garage and the kitchen. But starting out a project, if you go through and organize everything first, how much easier it is as you go along. Because I've definitely taken on what I thought was a little project, and my tool bench was a mess, and it took twice as long because that one ratchet I need or something is buried in, and I kind of learned that before I work on anything, get everything in order. So even if I'm going to cook something, first thing I do is get all the dishes done, and first thing in the morning after the coffee pot goes on is almost invariably a hot sink full of soapy water and whatever little dishes are there. And then as I'm cooking, I just like having that. I don't know. It's one of my weird little habits, I guess. But
I think we sort of found when we were doing more projects that were in people's homes, which is sort of how we got started, sort of just almost like spiffing up kind of curb appeal type things.
Yeah.
Realizing what a mess it was for us, in particular for Brandon. Never knowing where anything was, because it was always in a car or in a van or at someone else's house, or at our house and not here.
That person's house,
and you spend the entire day trying to track down this particular screwdriver.
Yeah.
Where's the impact? Where's the, oh my God, it's noon, and I just...
Well, and you feel like you haven't gotten anything accomplished because you've been chasing.
Because you haven't.
Yeah,
because you
because
literally
you
haven't.
You literally
the
have
entire
not.
day. Yeah.
I spent the majority of the winter working out of the trunk of a Honda with every tool that I thought I'd need. And usually every Thursday morning, the first thing I did, or every Wednesday evening, was pull everything out of the trunk and put it on the floor of the garage. And
These surfaces will be completely covered.
yeah,
We'll just clear them off and make a pile and work from it and
yeah.
sort back
Yeah.
to sanity.
And I'll tell you, it's that by the end of the weekend, you couldn't find anything in that trunk without. And it's frustrating, and it takes forever. And there's something to be said, like in my house, I went through when I had some time off a few weeks ago and literally loaded up my brother's dump truck with just stuff that I don't need anymore in my house. And you get, why am I keeping this? And every time I go to get something, I got to work around this, and just the peace of mind that comes from just throwing away the stuff you don't need,
Unloading.
organizing a space, especially some of the spaces that I don't use that often. And I'm like, why is this a mess? I could make it nice, and it'll be nice for 6 months. My little home office, I don't use it anymore, so I cleaned it up, and then I'm going to keep it clean because there's no reason to really make a mess in it. And
now you'll probably use it because it's clean.
now I use it because it's clean, right?
Well, I went into the bathroom, our bathroom where we keep all of the medicines and things, and I came out with this
Right.
arm shirt load of. It's like, yeah,
I got to reach past.
all of this is expired.
Yeah,
And I don't mean a little bit expired.
yeah,
I cut myself pretty badly a week or two ago, and I went to put, antibiotic cream on it before I butterflied it shut. I was like, this expired in 2008.
Well, and the worst thing is,
2008.
yeah,
I
that's
didn't
10
even
years ago.
live in our house in 2008.
Well, and the bad thing is your fingers cut, like if it's the way my situation was, your fingers cut, you're trying to find the Band-Aid and that, and 12 half-empty pill bottles or aspirin bottles fall out on the ground, bouncing everywhere because it's buried behind this stuff that you don't even need.
This is pretty much exactly that experience.
Yeah.
So like, this isn't working, and all of a sudden just sort of stop. And he's probably wondering, like, is she ever going to come out of there? I'd like to take a shower tonight too.
Yeah.
And I come out with just the shirt load, like,
Yeah.
this is, we don't need this. It's
The simplicity, even at the hospital, you tend to accumulate list of numbers and references and all these things, and in the old department they have a desk with a glass on top of it, and people shove things under there. And I noticed that the same number was posted 7 different places, and someone would leave, so they'd scratch that out and they'd handwrite one in, and after you worked there for a while, you knew where everything was because you just learned the system, but it was chaos of the mind, and there was just eye garbage everywhere that you had to look through and look past to find the thing you want. And I went and consolidated that information on one sheet of paper. And then if you really had to, you could pull it out and flip the back, and there's the secondary information. And no, whatever you need, you're going to look here. It's alphabetized. If anybody leaves, it's in the computer. And I go through and I update it, and I put the date that I updated in my anal organizational thing. But what happened to all these? Where did all of it go? Oh, it's still here. It's on one.
it's in one place, not
It's in
7.
one place.
I like that term, eye garbage.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's eye garbage that.
There's a whole lot of eye garbage in here.
Well, in the world.
Spinning in your chair.
And it's, it's something you said. If you know, are your paints here? At least I know that if I go to look for it, it's all here. It's all in this one area. Just even that simple task of, just not having to, how many times, the little things that light switch doesn't quite work right, and you walk past it, how many times that it creates micro stress.
Yes.
Because you know it's there, and
then 13 hours later, he's rewired the entire back of the house.
Yeah.
That's the pitfall, is that in for a penny, in for a pound on some of that stuff. But there's definitely, I took, a good week. I was off work, and I threw out stuff, and I fixed little things that had bothered me, and I had a list, and I just kept adding to it. It kept getting bigger and bigger. But then it also started ticking things off, and man, does it feel good. Like, I painted the fence in front of my house. I have a red split rail fence, and it looked like crap, and I had one side of my house that face is a weird way it grows thing. Easy to come off, but it's like that little green moss will occasionally grow on there. It's not hard to get off, but hadn't touched it in a while. I just went through and did all that stuff last week. Not the weather finally broke, and my gas grill, I just moved it into a place that I've always wanted to have it since I was there, but I had to build a stand for it. And just having those things taken care of, it's nice. It's off your mind. You shuttle it away, and I encourage anybody that's listening to this that if you have those things, just take a weekend and bust your ass if you have to, and maybe give up maybe whatever social recreational thing, and maybe plan for it. Plan a month ahead, and just make a list of all the things that you want to get done, and just hit it hard all at once and get it off your to-do list. That was, at least for me, that was kind of a big life lesson that should have been obvious, but I learned it, and but I worked on that to-do list for probably 3 weeks. I just kept adding things to it more and more.
I think that we'll both sometimes have those things where, again, one of us like disappears for a while or something, and it's because you just notice one of those little projects that you walk by the gate for that time where you're like, no, right now, I'm getting the wrench, I'm getting the whatever it needs, I'm fixing this right now. It's the 7,000th thing on my list that I should be doing right now, but I'm going to fix it right now and get it out of the way. And
sometimes you get in that mode and you find that,
the time is right for that task.
Yeah, the time is right.
And that's when you need to do, I think he was out of town or something, he came back, and you could actually see the floor under our desk, which someday you'll be able to see the floor under all of it, but.
Well, like you said, to get a win.
I got rid of 3 Bankers boxes full of crap.
Yeah.
That was really a good thing about the kitchen disaster too, is we purged even more things, and we've both gotten really good at just letting things go. Stuff is stuff.
Yeah, and you kind of, if you gear up for that moment where you're like, I know I got to throw things out, and just kind of getting in that mood where you're like, pitch it. That
I love those moods.
Yeah.
Trash day is one of our favorite days of the week.
Yeah.
We just sort of go through the house like, oh, it's Thursday night. We can go through the house and just.
It's Thursday night. The kids aren't here. Throw everything away. Everything.
Yeah, and before they can complain that it's gone, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's also we did a chore list.
Yeah, we're getting a chore list.
Yeah.
It's funny. I weighed 310 pounds, and I lost 90 of them, and I still had my old pants that were 2 or 3 sizes too big. I mean, I looked silly if I tried to wear them, but they were. Finally, I parted with all that stuff. I'm like, you haven't worn these in years. If you gain weight again, I guess you'll go out and buy new pants, but God forbid, let's not be thinking that that's ever going to happen, that these are absolutely of no use to you at this point, so get rid of them. And that was a goodwill situation, but there's free your mind, and it's about having everything in your area kind of taken care of. It opens up your mind to other things. I've been just trying to work on micro stress, whether it's in my living environment, in my social life, avoiding less small talk,
saying no.
No.
Just say no. We talked about that earlier. I have never gained more in my entire life in every single arena of my life, socially, work, home, just my mental state altogether, is saying no to things that I don't want to commit to, and it doesn't matter why.
My friend Melody kind of turned me on to the idea of acquaintance fatigue. So it's people in your life that you don't dislike, and you might even kind of like them, but they're neither your friends or your enemies, and you kind of hang out sometimes, and maybe it's the people that you occasionally go out to dinner with, and you don't really know why you like them, or if you like them, you're just kind of there because it's something to do, and that, oh, hey, how you been? What's going on? Yeah. Oh, yeah, good to see you. Yeah, the kids. Yeah, we should get beer sometime. That kind of stuff. Like, it takes a toll on you. That kind of, the lack of realness and the fakeness of it. And not that there's anything bad with those people. It's just that that's why I don't really go out to the bars anymore, because it's a lot of, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. What's going on?
I get very, very extreme sensory overload, and
Yeah.
I've finally allowed myself to just accept that and not continue to
Yeah.
torture myself with it. I think you largely are the same way. Just some of the same things, some different reasons, but just no, that's just not. I don't enjoy that. I'm just not.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. And I watched him a couple of weeks ago. Someone he hadn't spoken to in years was doing the whole, we need to get together and have a beer.
Yeah.
And watched him very directly say to this person, I hope you're doing great. Our lives have gone in really, really different paths, but I don't even know what would come of us going to get a beer. I hope things are really fantastic, but I just don't see a time in my life where that's going to happen.
I saw a really good TED Talk that talked about that exact same thing, and if you could do that, it's really an awesome thing to do. And I think they kind of put it in the terms of, like, if you really don't want to get a beer with that person, you tell them that one time, and it might be uncomfortable and it might hurt their feelings a little bit, but then you don't have 12 times of, hey dude, want to go get a beer? Oh, I'm busy, trying to make up an excuse. Things are, and you constantly have that little thing, and then eventually you can only say no so many times. You're like, I guess I got a beer with this asshole.
And then after saying no for the 647th time, going and doing that thing that you really didn't want to do is actually even more stressful.
Well, yeah, because now there's the tension of the fact that you blew them off 800 times, and you're annoyed that you have to do it now because you're only doing it because socially you're obligated. And something freeing about just saying, we're not like that anymore. So I don't hate you, and there's no hard feelings. And boy, that's.
I can also accept if you think that I'm a jerk because I said no, but I've got to do what's best for me.
Yeah.
And I think that some people find it refreshing because you're causing them acquaintance fatigue too. Whenever
Possibly.
You're
It's possibly going in both directions.
And these might just be.
We should get a beer or whatever.
And that might just be something that people say out of a sense of obligation, because that's what you say to an old friend when you haven't seen them in a while.
It's kind of like unloading the Facebook friends list. There's sort of people on there, and it's not an animosity situation, but you don't care what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't care. There's just our lives don't.
Yeah.
We don't need to keep intersecting lives that don't intersect.
Right. I haven't gone as far as to unfriend too many people unless they really upset me. I think it's only happened a couple times, but I definitely unfollow a ton of people. I have my feed such that it's really narrowed down to it's only going to give me information on the people that I'm close to. And even I've been doing really good since the first of the year. I maybe scroll through Facebook once every 2 weeks, maybe once a month. So I don't, anybody that's listening to this, if I haven't liked one of your pictures in a while, it's because I haven't looked at them, and it's nothing against that. But, I post about the podcast. Occasionally I get really excited and I'll post a motorcycle something. But generally it's to promote something, which is probably just as annoying if I post it to myself. But, and Messenger used to be my primary way of communicating with people. And I think I generally check it about every 3 days. If I'm working, I may check it on Sunday night, and then I may not check it again until Thursday morning, because I can't do anything about whatever's going on there. I know that I don't have any appointments that I have to keep up with, and I don't want to get into a chat situation where I'm not really in the mood to chat or whatever it is. Yeah. I'd just rather wait and see the person and talk to him in person. So sometimes I'll have 18 IMs. And
we conduct so much business that way. It's been surprising. So that, I think,
it is the best
tool for me,
for
was a really big catalyst to clean up things that made me not want to look at it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Small talk.
And also it's a case of, a friend I've had for 30 some years. She and her family live in Italy. They're actually moving back over the summer. But that was the way we kept in touch. We didn't miss a beat. We knew what the kids were doing. Yeah. The kids could see what the kids were doing. The kids could see the pictures of spelling bees and concerts and things. And it was great. And I've always wanted it to be that. It's always been a positive for me. I'm not saying I haven't fallen into it, but I'm not trying to get on there to change someone's political opinions or tell you who to vote for or tell you you're
I was
wrong
gonna say,
or right.
You
And
talk about micro stresses. I think that's one thing with social media where everything now is so politicized, and we're both people who have I worked in politics for several years. I think you've sort of always had pretty strong, not even necessarily strong opinions. I don't think it's necessarily about having like strong political opinions, but just caring deeply about your community and those sorts of things. And it's easy to get sucked into that, and you realize, and I've talked about like unfollowing people who, it's not necessarily that I don't want to see a political opinion that I don't agree with.
I just want to get upset by it.
I don't need to be getting
get dragged
upset
in the quagmire.
or the
sort of
compulsion to have some kind of a debate.
Well, and you know, if someone disagrees,
And the written word is
it-
going to be taken so much differently than if I say exactly the same thing to you face to face.
Yeah, well, and if we're talking face to face, there's the chance that we can just look at each other and go, you know, I think we're kind of close to. Me and my friend Sean will chat sometimes. We'll have a big debate about vegetarianism, and when online, it's very easy to get misunderstood, and you're almost caught up in a rebuttal, and then they kind of are leaning towards your way a little bit, but you've already sent your rebuttal, and I don't know, it's just,
the times.
yeah, it's easy. You can't do a timeout and say, look, let's stop. It's just a weird form of communication, and you
It's
know,
real time, but in some cases very not real time.
and
So it can really stutter step a conversation pretty hard.
because you could I know, like you could say, I know where you're coming from without totally giving in, and it's and just like for me, I have my ringer on my phone now because this is Podcast Thursday. I'm doing a bunch of them. I have quite a few things scheduled, so I've been having my phone open. But that little ding, and then I get a message. I better answer it. What is it? What is it? I usually have that off. So if you're listening, if you send me a text or something and I don't answer you back for a couple of days, all I know is how many messages I have pending. But I don't necessarily keep track of it. You know, every now and then I'll do the little thing where you put the little bubble. So I know who the last person is that messaged me, but who the 7 or 8 people are. And it's not because I hate anybody. It's just that when I get to them, when I'm ready to look at them, I answer them all at once. And it also keeps from the social obligation of, okay, thanks. And it usually ends up with somebody with the big thumbs up, which is universal for, I'm done with this conversation, which I hate that, but it is necessary time. Yeah. It's the social thing
we've gotten to this place where everybody thinks that we all think that we have to be immediately available all the time. And we'll sort of be like, well, so-and-so messaged about the such and such. If you think of just common courtesy and business etiquette, I have 24 hours to answer this question. I am not, and you can see that I saw the thing that you sent, but I didn't answer. I might have to give it a little thought.
Yeah.
I may have to discuss it with him. Yeah. We may be in another town or another state because we needed to shut off for a minute, and I'm not obligated to answer you right now. And you're not obligated to answer me right now either.
And if I need an answer right away, I call. Like when we were trying to coordinate for today, I wanted to make sure we had it straightened out. So I picked up the phone and called because I didn't want to, I needed to kind of figure it out then. And so I didn't want to have to keep checking my phone So, and I always figure, if it's important, call me. If my phone's not ringing, then it's probably nothing too dire,
If it's important, call him.
Call him,
Because I can't hear on the phone. I hate that. Nothing makes you feel worse and more awkward than something you can't do very well anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't like the phone is for written word for me. I can't hear it.
Well, and the number of phone calls I make a year are ridiculously low, so it's kind of my last avoidable thing. But occasionally when if it's important and timely, but and like I was scheduling, working on finding a new location for the podcast. So my guest for this evening, we're kind of going back and forth, but we knew that we had something pending, so we were checking relatively often. And but I just try to avoid that. When the phone dings, I have to see who it is. That I have to know immediately. And for me, it's been very freeing to not keep up with it. I'm like, I'm going to just Wednesday evening, I'm going to get it. I'm going to deal with all this on Wednesday evening.
That's a good.
I check it a lot, but
system too.
I don't. I generally speaking, unless we're expecting something, I don't leave my noise on because I may decide to look at it every 15 minutes. I
Yeah.
may decide to look at it every 15 hours. I may decide, but I decide.
Yeah.
I'm not picking it up because it dinged.
Yeah, and I think some people have better just self-control or lack of annoyance with it. For me, I really try not to internet much. I try to just, and probably it might be a symptom of me being older, but I really just like to do things that don't involve a computer screen, whether it's a personal conversation or cooking in the kitchen, or I don't edit films anymore at all because it's just too much time sitting at a computer. I just really more and more limit my time on any kind of electronic device. I mean, I like my Netflix and watching YouTube videos, but as far as the handheld stuff, I really, if I'm chatting with somebody too much, I'm just like, let's just get a beer. It's almost the opposite case where we've been trying to carry on a conversation. We should just hang out. We're obviously enjoy talking to each other.
Right,
Let's bring
right.
it into the real world and have a meaningful conversation and that idea of
Well, and I remember
being
this
really
winter,
connected.
when everything happened with us. It was just kind of, you found out something happened and you showed up.
Yeah.
You knew we were going to be home
Yeah.
because everything in the world had
Yeah.
caved in. We had nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
It is.
And you showed up with a sledgehammer and a smile and 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think it was 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. You didn't leave until we put waterlogged pieces of kitchen out on the street.
Yeah.
And you were reasonably sure that we were just going to go to bed and not do anything terrible.
Yeah. Made sure that you guys were in a good place before I left.
Well, and that's wonderful in a world today where pretty much
Yeah.
people's entire relationships take place
Yeah. My
across the screen.
My brother, he lives maybe a mile and a half away from me, and a lot of times, if I have to ask him something, I'll hop on the bike and just drive up to his house, rather than text him and wait for a text or to bother him with a phone call. I'll just go up there, see the kids, and talk in person, and
We do that a lot if we have to make an appointment or something for somewhere around town. It's easier for us to stop into the office and make the appointment for, next Tuesday at 10.
It
and
is.
People look at you like, you came all the way in here to do this?
No.
It's like, no, this is easier than
on the
being
phone is
to
terrible.
try to-
Yeah, because you're the least important thing when you're on the phone. And
Mm-hmm.
and cold, please. I one of my jobs at the hospital is sometimes I have to make follow-up appointments for patients, and I had one that was 32 minutes on the phone, and luckily my boss was sitting there and he goes, "Are you still on hold?" I said, "This happens every time." In his power and connections, he called and he's like, "Do you realize that this happens all the time?" And I give my boss a big shout out for taking the time to hook me up and recognizing that this is a problem. And but you're much better just to go in there in person, deal with it in person. Plus, especially something where someone might be wanting to be picky or whatever. In person, they're going to be a little bit more cooperative with you. And
You've got a better chance of getting what you want much more quickly and everybody being happier. at the end.
if I have a problem with this, whatever, rather than picking up the phone and yelling at them, if it's someone where I can walk in face to face, and also for the fact that maybe I'm all hot under the collar, and I'll be less brave and brazen
Or
in
to be
person.
better behaved in
behave
person.
myself more, and
Yeah.
I would rather walk away from something knowing that that I was a better person. And
It's harder to be an asshole to somebody's face.
it is, yeah. Oh, dinging! I bet they're calling about my evening podcast, and we're 2 hours and 8 minutes. So
That's usually how it happens.
it's usually how it is. Yeah. Well, as always, the second was as fun as the first one, and I appreciate you guys coming on, and you give me a lot of business advice over the last year as I started my new endeavor, and we're going to be working together on some projects in the future. And yeah, it's good to see you guys are doing good after the flood and all that.
We're coming back.
We're back and better than ever.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you have a piece of furniture that's not quite what you want it to be, and you want it to be brought back to life, give these guys a shout. And if you're just looking to furnish your house with something unique and beautiful that you're not going to find at Target or at IKEA, that has some love put into it, give them a shout and they'll hook you up big time. And if you got some furniture that's sitting there, be patient. They might be busy, but before you throw it out, maybe see if they're willing to give it a second life.
Yep. All of those things.
All of those things.
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks.
All right. Well, until the next time, everybody. See ya.
My voice cries when I sing, goes out of tune, but it doesn't matter to you. No, it doesn't matter to you. I say things when I'm mad. No, I'm a liar. You know that they aren't true. You know they're never true. But a million other people might. It's just the way I feel tonight. When the lights come on and the reel is hot, you're everything you know you're not. We don't talk at all. Throughout the day, but you always seem to make